In the vast, glittering halls of the Galactic Concord station, where stars seemed to whisper secrets through the transparent domes overhead, the air hummed with the fragile promise of peace. Diplomats from 100 worlds mingled under the watchful gaze of holographic projectors, their voices a symphony of alien tongues blending with the soft chime of translation devices. But amid this fragile tapestry of alliance, one man stood apart, not by choice, but by the sheer audacity of fate. His name was Ryan, a human soldier from Earth, broad-shouldered and unassuming, with eyes that held the quiet resolve of someone who'd stared down the void of space more times than he cared to count. He wasn't here to negotiate, he was security, a guardian in the shadows, his pulse rifle slung low and his mind sharp against the undercurrents of tension rippling through the room. The summit had been billed as the dawn of a new era. Emperor Vexen of Zerathia, the mighty ruler whose empire spanned nebulae and asteroid fields, had arrived with his daughter, Princess Lyra, the heir to a throne forged in the fires of ancient stars. Lyra was a vision that could steal the breath from any being, her hair cascaded like streams of moonlight, pure white and shimmering under the artificial lights, framing a face of ethereal beauty. Her skin glowed with a porcelain luminescence, pale and flawless, accentuating the delicate points of her elf-like ears that twitched ever so slightly at the faintest sound. She moved with the grace of a comet, her body a perfect blend of strength and allure, curves that spoke of worlds unexplored, draped in a gown of iridescent fabric that clung just enough to hint at the mysteries beneath, elegant yet undeniably provocative in its design. Heads turned as she passed, not just for her royal bearing, but for the way she embodied the exotic allure of Zerathia, a kingdom where technology and biology intertwined in ways humans could only dream of. Ryan had noticed her from the moment the Zerathian delegation arrived. It wasn't just her appearance, it was the quiet intelligence in her violet eyes, the way she navigated the political minefield with a smile that could disarm even the most hardened ambassador. He'd been assigned to the periphery, watching for threats in a sea of unfamiliar faces. Earth was the newcomer here, a fledgling power scraping its way into the galactic fold after centuries of isolation. Humans were seen as brash, unpredictable warriors with hearts of fire but minds still tethered to their blue planet. Ryan embodied that stereotype, tough, loyal, with a scar across his jaw from a skirmish on Mars' red dunes. He didn't expect to be more than a footnote in this grand event. But fate, that capricious force of the cosmos, had other plans. As Emperor Vexen rose to address the assembly, his voice booming like thunder through the amplifiers, a shadow stirred in the crowd. A cloaked figure, eyes glowing with fanatic zeal, slipped through the throng. Ryan's instincts fired like a neutron star. Something was wrong. The air thickened with malice as the assassin's hand emerged, clutching a compact energy disruptor, its barrel humming with lethal intent. Time slowed. The weapon targeted not the Emperor, but Lyra, standing poised at her father's side, her white hair catching the light like a beacon. No, Ryan's shout cut through the din, raw and primal. He lunged without thought, his body a shield of flesh and determination. The blast erupted, a searing bolt of plasma that tore through the air, meant to vaporize the princess in an instant. But Ryan was there, throwing himself into its path. The energy slammed into him like a supernova's fury, scorching his uniform, burning through layers of armor and skin. Pain exploded in his chest, a white-hot agony that blurred his vision, but he held firm, collapsing to one knee as the force knocked him back. The hall erupted into chaos, screams in a dozen languages, security drones whirring to life, guards converging like meteors. Lyra's eyes widened in shock, her delicate ears flattening against her head as she stared at the human who'd just saved her life. Emperor Vexen, a towering figure with scales that shimmered like polished obsidian and eyes that burned with the wisdom of ages, whirled around. His massive hand caught his daughter, pulling her close, but his gaze locked on Ryan. The human soldier gasped, clutching his side where the blast had grazed him deeply, blood mingling with charred fabric. Medics rushed in, but Vexen's voice boomed over the pandemonium. "Hold, this man. This human, he has given of himself for my bloodline." As the assassin was subdued, a rogue from a rival faction, it would later be revealed, Ryan felt the world tilting. Lyra knelt beside him, her gowned form brushing against his, her hand cool and gentle on his arm. "Why?" she whispered, her voice like the soft hum of a distant pulsar, laced with confusion and something deeper, a spark of intrigue in those violet depths. Ryan managed a pained grin, his voice rough but steady. "Couldn't let a light like yours go out, not on my watch." The Emperor approached, his presence commanding the room to silence. He studied Ryan with an intensity that could pierce hulls, then nodded slowly. In Zerathia, such an act binds souls. You are no mere guard. Human, you are a savior. Whispers rippled through the crowd, humans so fragile yet so bold. Earth's delegation watched in awe as Vexen extended a hand, helping Ryan to his feet. The wound was grievous, but Zerathian tech was already at work, nano-healers swarming from the Emperor's gauntlet to knit flesh and soothe pain. In that moment, as the summit teetered on the edge of war or wonder, Ryan felt a shift. Lyra's gaze lingered on him, not with pity, but with a curiosity that bordered on fascination. Her lips curved in a subtle smile, revealing the hint of fangs that added to her otherworldly charm. The air between them crackled, unspoken possibilities blooming like nebulae in the void. Emperor Vexen placed a heavy hand on Ryan's shoulder. You have earned more than gratitude, son of Earth. Come, let us speak of alliances forged in fire. As the station's alarms faded and order restored, Ryan found himself drawn into the inner circle of Zerathia. The princess walked beside him, her scent, a mix of exotic spices and starlit blooms, wafting gently, stirring something primal within him. He was just a soldier, but in her eyes, he saw reflections of heroism, of potential lovers across the stars. The peace summit had gone wrong, spectacularly so, but from its ashes, a bond was forming, one that would challenge empires, ignite passions, and propel humanity to heights undreamed. The hours that followed blurred into a whirlwind. Medical bays aboard the Zerathian flagship hummed with advanced machinery, far beyond Earth's capabilities. Ryan lay on a biobed, the wound sealing under waves of regenerative light, while Lyra hovered nearby, her white hair falling like a veil as she adjusted controls with elegant fingers. Your people, they fight with such raw emotion, she murmured, her voice carrying a melodic lilt that made his heart race despite the painkillers. In Zerathia, we are bound by logic, by circuits and stars, but you leaped without calculation. Ryan chuckled weakly, wincing as he shifted. Calculations overrated when lives are on the line, especially one like yours. Her cheeks flushed a soft lavender, a Zerathian blush. He realized, and she averted her gaze, but not before he caught the spark of interest. Emperor Vexen entered then, his robes flowing like liquid night, flanked by advisors who eyed the human with suspicion. The blast was meant to shatter our unity, he declared, his voice resonating deep. But instead, it has revealed a true ally. Ryan of Earth, your sacrifice honors your kind. In return, I offer you a place at my side, not as servant, but as kin. The words hung heavy, laden with implication. Kin. To an emperor whose domain eclipsed Earth's fledgling colonies. Ryan's mind reeled, but Lyra's hand brushed his, a fleeting touch that sent electric tingles up his arm. Father speaks truth, she said softly. You are intriguing, more than we expected from humans. As the ship prepared to depart the station, Ryan was invited to dine in the royal quarters, a feast of crystalline fruits and energy-infused elixirs that made his senses sing. Seated across from Lyra, he watched her eat with delicate precision, her elf-like ears perking at every laugh from the table. The conversation flowed from politics to personal tales, her life in the floating palaces of Zerathia, his battles on distant moons. There was a pull between them, magnetic and undeniable, as if the stars themselves conspired. But beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Whispers among the crew spoke of ancient prophecies, a human savior who would bridge worlds. Vexen observed them with a knowing smile, his eyes twinkling like distant quasars. Rest now, my new son, he said as the meal ended. Tomorrow, we chart a course for Zerathia. There, you will learn our ways, and perhaps find more than alliance. Ryan retired to his assigned chambers, the viewport showing stars streaking by in hyperspace. His thoughts swirled with Lyra's image, her gowned silhouette, the way her body moved with an alien grace that stirred desires he hadn't anticipated. Sleep came fitfully, dreams laced with her touch, her voice calling across the void. Little did he know, this was only the beginning. The cosmos had more in store, twists of fate that would test hearts and empires alike. As the ship hurtled through the ether, Lyra stood in her own quarters, fingers tracing the spot where Ryan had shielded her. A warmth bloomed in her chest, foreign yet exhilarating. Humans were wild, unpredictable, and utterly captivating. She smiled to herself, wondering what secrets this earthling held. The journey had begun, a tapestry of heroism, romance, and galactic intrigue unfolding one star at a time. As the Zerathian flagship sliced through the shimmering veil of hyperspace, Ryan lay in his quarters, the hum of the engines a distant lullaby that did little to quiet the storm in his mind. The regenerative treatments had worked miracles, his wound now a faint scar, a badge of honor etched into his skin like a constellation mapped by fire. But the real ache lingered deeper, stirred by memories of Lyra's touch, that brief brush of her fingers against his that had ignited something wild and uncharted within him. He stared at the viewport, where stars blurred into streaks of light, wondering if this was all a fever dream born from the blast's aftermath. A human soldier, plucked from obscurity, now hurtling toward an alien empire as the Emperor's favored guest, and her Lyra, with her moonlit hair and eyes that held galaxies of their own. What was this pull he felt, this magnetic draw that made his pulse quicken at the mere thought of her? Sleep evaded him, replaced by a restless energy that had him pacing the room. The chambers were opulent, far beyond anything Earth could offer, walls that shifted colors like living auroras, a bed that molded to his form with a warmth that felt almost sentient. Yet, it all paled against the intrigue of what lay ahead. He stripped off his singed uniform, stepping into the sonic shower, letting the vibrations cleanse away the grime of battle. Water wasn't needed here, instead. Waves of sound and light danced over his skin, leaving him refreshed and tingling. As he emerged, wrapping himself in a provided robe of silken fabric that whispered against his body, a soft chime echoed at the door. His heart skipped. "Enter," he called, his voice steadier than he felt. The panel slid open with a hiss, revealing Lyra standing there, bathed in the soft glow of the corridor lights. She had changed from her formal gown into something more intimate, a flowing garment that hugged her curves like a second skin, its fabric translucent in places, revealing glimpses of her pale, luminous flesh beneath. The material shimmered with embedded crystals, catching the light and drawing the eye to the swell of her breasts, the gentle flare of her hips, and the elegant lines of her legs. Her white hair fell loose now, cascading over her shoulders like a waterfall of silver threads, and her elf-like ears peeked through, twitching slightly as if attuned to his quickening breath. She carried a tray with 2 goblets, steam rising from a liquid that glowed faintly blue. "I couldn't rest," she admitted, her voice a melodic whisper that sent a shiver down his spine. "And I thought, perhaps you couldn't either. May I come in?" Ryan nodded, stepping aside, his robe suddenly feeling too thin, too revealing. "Of course, what's that?" "A Zerathian elixir," she replied, gliding into the room with that effortless grace, the door sealed behind her, enclosing them in a cocoon of privacy. "It soothes the mind, eases the body after trauma. Father insists it's tradition for honored guests." Her violet eyes met his, holding a depth that made the air between them thicken with unspoken tension. She set the tray down on a low table, her movements deliberate, the fabric of her attire shifting to offer tantalizing hints of what lay hidden. He sat on the edge of the bed, gesturing for her to join him. "Tradition, huh? On Earth, we'd probably just crack open a beer and talk it out." A small laugh escaped him, but it died as she perched beside him, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin, a heat that was subtly different, infused with an electric hum, as if her very essence was charged with stellar energy. Lyra tilted her head, her ears perking with curiosity. "Beer, is that a human ritual of bonding?" She handed him a goblet, her fingers lingering on his for a moment longer than necessary, sending sparks racing up his arm. "Something like that," he murmured, taking a sip. The elixir was smooth, tasting of distant fruits and a hint of spice that warmed him from within, loosening knots he hadn't realized were there. "It's incredible, like liquid starlight," she smiled, a subtle curve of her lips that revealed the faintest gleam of those intriguing fangs. "We brew it from the nectar of nebula blooms. It heightens senses, too makes everything feel more alive." Her gaze drifted over him, taking in the way the robe clung to his muscled frame, the scar on his chest peeking through. There was no shyness in her appraisal. Zerathians, he'd learned from briefings, viewed physicality with a candidness that bordered on reverence, their culture weaving sensuality into the fabric of diplomacy and daily life. The room seemed to grow smaller, the air charged with an undercurrent of anticipation. Ryan set his goblet down, his eyes locked on hers. "Why are you really here, Lyra? Not just for the drink." She hesitated, her cheeks flushing that soft lavender again, but her voice was steady, laced with a vulnerability that made her even more alluring. "You saved me." In that moment, when the blast came, I felt fear, true fear, for the first time in cycles, and you, a stranger from a world we barely know, threw yourself in harm's way. It stirs something in me. I want to understand you, Ryan, to know what drives a human heart to such recklessness. He reached out, gently tucking a strand of her white hair behind one of those delicate ears, his thumb brushing the pointed tip. It was softer than he imagined, like velvet warmed by sun. She inhaled sharply, her body leaning into the touch, her eyes half closing in a way that sent a rush of heat through him. "Recklessness, or just instinct?" he said softly. "You're not like anyone I've met. Beautiful, yes, but it's more than that. There's a fire in you, hidden under all that grace." Lyra's hand found his knee, her palm cool yet igniting, fingers tracing light patterns through the thin robe. "In Zerathia, we connect through more than words. Our senses link, sharing emotions like data streams. But with you, it's raw, unfiltered. Tell me, do humans touch like this?" She slid her hand higher, along his thigh, her touch exploratory, sending jolts of electricity that made his breath hitch. The elixir amplified everything, the scent of her, like jasmine kissed by cosmic winds, the way her body curved toward him, inviting without demand. Ryan's resolve wavered, desire coiling tight in his core. "We do," he whispered, his free hand cupping her cheek, thumb grazing her full lower lip. "But it's not just touch, it's this." He leaned in, closing the distance, his lips brushing hers in a tentative kiss that exploded into something deeper as she responded with fervor. Her mouth was soft, tasting of the elixir and something uniquely her, sweet and electric, her fangs grazing his tongue in a way that was thrilling rather than painful. She pressed closer, her gowned form molding against him, the thin barriers of fabric doing little to conceal the heat building between them. Ryan's hands roamed her back, feeling the smooth expanse of her skin, the subtle ridges along her spine that spoke of her alien heritage, enhancements perhaps from Zerathian tech. She gasped into the kiss, her ears flattening in pleasure, her fingers digging into his shoulders as if anchoring herself against a tidal wave. The suspense of the moment hung like a nebula's edge. Would the ship alarm blare? Would her father sense this forbidden connection? But nothing interrupted, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Lyra pulled back slightly, her eyes darkened with desire, breathing ragged. "Your kiss! It's like a storm, untamed." She untied the sash of her garment with deliberate slowness, letting it slip open just enough to reveal the pale swell of her breasts, her body a masterpiece of curves and luminescence, glowing faintly in the dim light. Ryan's heart pounded, a drumbeat echoing the ship's engines. "Lyra, are you sure? This, us, it's crossing lines." She silenced him with another kiss, deeper, her hands guiding his to explore, tracing the contours of her hips, the firmness of her thighs. "Lines are for maps, not for hearts." She murmured against his skin, her voice husky. "Let me show you Zerathian ways. We bond through sensation, through shared pulses." He surrendered then, the erotic pull too strong to resist. His robe fell away, and they tumbled onto the bed, bodies entwining in a dance as old as the stars yet utterly new. Her skin against his was a revelation, cool at first, then warming to match his heat, her curves yielding and pressing in ways that drove him to the edge. She moved with an alien fluidity, her legs wrapping around him, drawing him in, her moans a symphony that blended with the hum of hyperspace. Every touch was amplified, every caress a spark that built toward an inevitable crescendo. Time stretched, suspense weaving through their intimacy like threads of light. What if this was discovered? What secrets did her body hold? Enhancements that heightened pleasure to levels humans could only imagine. Ryan lost himself in her, the erotic haze blurring boundaries, his hands worshipping her form, the gentle points of her ears, the arch of her back as she arched under him. She whispered encouragements in her native tongue, words that his translator rendered as poetry. "Feel the stars in me, Ryan, let our worlds collide." As they moved together, the ship's subtle vibrations added to the rhythm, building tension that coiled tighter and tighter. Lyra's nails, sharp yet careful, traced patterns on his back, marking him in ways that felt permanent, binding, the air filled with their shared breaths, the scent of their union mingling with the elixir's spice. It was suspenseful in its intensity, each moment teetering on the brink, erotic in its raw honesty. Finally, release came like a supernova, waves of pleasure crashing over them, leaving them tangled and spent. Lyra nestled against his chest, her white hair splayed like a halo, her body still humming with aftershocks. "This is just the beginning," she breathed, her fingers tracing his scar. "But secrets like this carry risks. Father values you, but Zerathia has traditions." Ryan held her close, the post-bliss calm laced with a new undercurrent of intrigue. What had he unleashed? The journey to Zerathia suddenly felt longer, fraught with possibilities and perils that danced on the horizon like distant comets. Yet, in her arms, he felt invincible, a human hero entwined with an alien destiny. As the afterglow wrapped around them like a nebula's gentle haze, Ryan traced lazy patterns on Lyra's luminous skin, his fingers memorizing the subtle glow that pulsed faintly with her heartbeat. She sighed contentedly, her head resting on his chest, those elf-like ears brushing against him in a way that sent residual shivers through his body. The ship's hum felt distant now, a backdrop to their shared silence, but beneath it all, a nagging sense of foreboding crept in, like the first tremor before a quake. What perils had she hinted at? Traditions that could unravel this fragile bond. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on the warmth of her curves pressed against him, the way her white hair spilled across the sheets like threads of starlight. Yet, even in this intimate sanctuary, the universe had a way of intruding, and it chose that moment to shatter their peace with a jolt that rattled the entire vessel. A sudden lurch threw them both sideways, the hyperspace tunnel warping unnaturally around the ship. Alarms blared, a piercing wail that cut through the air like a laser slicing hull plating. Lyra bolted upright, her violet eyes widening in alarm, the lavender flush on her cheeks draining to a stark pallor. "Intruders," she whispered, her voice laced with a mix of fear and resolve that made Ryan's blood run cold. She scrambled from the bed, her garment slipping back into place with a fluid motion, but not before he caught the determined set of her jaw, the way her fangs glinted in the emergency lighting that flickered on. Ryan was on his feet in an instant, instincts honed from Earth's brutal frontier wars kicking in. What kind? Pirates? Rivals? He grabbed his discarded uniform, yanking it on as the ship shuddered again, this time with the unmistakable thud of docking clamps engaging, unauthorized, forceful. Lyra activated a holographic console with a wave of her hand, projections blooming in the air like ethereal flowers, displaying schematics of the flagship under assault. Worse. Shadow Collective assassins. They must have trailed us from the station. Father warned of whispers, factions who see our alliance with Earth as a threat to the old order. Her ears flattened against her head, a sign of distress he'd already come to recognize, and she shot him a glance filled with urgent curiosity. "Can you fight, Ryan? Truly fight, like you did for me?" He met her gaze, adrenaline surging through him like a plasma charge. "Try me." Snatching a sidearm from the wall-mounted arsenal, Zerathian tech that hummed to life in his grip, adapting to his human physiology with a series of clicks, he felt a thrill of empowerment. This wasn't just survival, it was a test, a dramatic unveiling of whether a mere earthling could stand against the cosmos' deadliest shadows. The door to his quarters hissed open on its own, overridden by the ship's AI, and chaos spilled in from the corridor. Shouts in alien dialects, the crackle of energy weapons, and the acrid scent of scorched metal. Lyra led the way, her bare feet silent on the deck plating. Moving with an agility that belied her royal upbringing, she was no fragile princess, but a warrior forged in the fires of her empire's history. Ryan followed close, his heart pounding in a rhythm that matched the escalating drama, each step thrusting them deeper into the thriller unfolding aboard the vessel. They rounded a corner into a maelstrom. Zerathian guards, their scaled armor gleaming under flashing lights, clashed with intruders cloaked in void-black suits that shimmered with cloaking tech, rendering them ghostly blurs. Blasts zipped through the air, one grazing Ryan's shoulder and singeing fabric, the pain a sharp reminder of his vulnerability, but he fired back, the pistol in his hand unleashing bolts of azure energy that struck true, dropping an assassin mid-leap. The figure crumpled, its cloak failing to reveal a grotesque hybrid of machine and flesh, cybernetic enhancements twisted into nightmarish forms. Lyra fought beside him, conjuring a personal force field from a wrist device that deflected incoming fire while she wielded an elegant vibroblade, its edge humming with lethal vibration. She sliced through an attacker's defenses with precision, her white hair whipping like a banner in the fray, her body a blur of lethal grace. "They're after the core," she yelled over the din, her voice cutting through the thrill of battle. The Emperor's chamber, the forbidden tech. Ryan's mind raced, piecing together fragments from their earlier conversations. The forbidden tech Vexen had mentioned, ancient artifacts that could elevate Earth to cosmic supremacy. If these assassins seized it, the Alliance would crumble, and with it, any hope for humanity's ascendance. A surge of protectiveness washed over him, not just for Lyra, but for the future she represented, a curious blend of worlds where humans weren't the underdogs anymore. They pressed on, the corridor narrowing into a gauntlet of death. An assassin lunged from the shadows, its claws extended like razor-sharp appendages, aiming for Lyra's throat. Ryan tackled it midair, the impact jarring his bones as they crashed to the deck. The creature hissed, its face a mask of biomechanical horror, eyes glowing with malevolent code. He wrestled it, feeling its strength augmented by servos that nearly crushed his ribs, but he jammed his pistol under its chin and fired. The blast erupting in a spray of sparks and ichor. Thrilling victory coursed through him, but it was short-lived. A second wave poured in, forcing them back to back. In the midst of the chaos, a surprising revelation hit Ryan like a comet strike. As Lyra deactivated a fallen assassin's helmet, a holographic log flickered to life, projecting a face he recognized from Earth's intel briefs, a human traitor, a rogue admiral who'd sold out to the collective for power. Earth's involved. He gasped, the betrayal stinging deeper than any wound. Lyra's eyes met his, wide with curiosity and shock. How deep did this conspiracy run? Was his own world sabotaging the very alliance he'd fought for? The drama escalated as they burst into the Emperor's antechamber, the heart of the ship. Vexen stood there, a colossus amid the storm, his massive form wielding a staff that crackled with arcane energy, blasting assailants with waves of force. But he was outnumbered, blood deep crimson trickling from a gash on his arm, his advisors fallen around him. "Daughter!" he roared, relief flashing in his eyes as Lyra and Ryan charged in. The climax built to a fever pitch. Assassins swarmed like locusts, their weapons trained on the central pedestal where the forbidden tech hummed, a crystalline orb pulsing with inner light, guardian of Zerathia's greatest secrets. Ryan dove forward, shielding Vexen as a barrage rained down, his body absorbing glancing hits that burned like fire. Lyra screamed his name, her blade flashing in a whirlwind, cutting down foes with a ferocity that surprised even her. In a thrilling twist, Ryan grabbed a discarded enemy device, a cloaking emitter, and activated it, vanishing from sight. The assassins faltered, confusion rippling through their ranks as he struck from invisibility, dismantling them one by one. Curious whispers echoed in his mind, the tech interfacing with his thoughts in ways he couldn't explain, Zerathian augmentation bleeding into human will. He reappeared beside the orb, his hand slamming down on a control that unleashed a ship-wide pulse, stunning the intruders in a wave of electromagnetic fury. But the true surprise came as the last assassin fell, its mask cracking to reveal not a monster, but a familiar face, Lyra's own cousin, exiled years ago for ambition. Treason in the blood. Vexen growled, his voice thunderous, but laced with sorrow. Lyra staggered back, her world shattering, family betrayal, hidden motives that peeled back layers of her reality. The chamber fell silent, save for the orb's hum, now attuned to Ryan's touch in a way that bound him irrevocably. Vexen clapped a hand on his shoulder, eyes gleaming with dramatic approval. "You have proven more than a savior, human. The orb chooses you. Its secrets are yours to wield." Lyra rushed to Ryan's side, her embrace fierce amid the wreckage, her curiosity about him deepening into something profound. Yet, as the ship stabilized and reinforcements arrived, a thrilling undercurrent remained. The traitor's log hinted at a larger plot, shadows extending back to Earth and beyond. The battle was won, but the war, dramatic, unpredictable, had just ignited, leaving them all on the edge of revelations that could redefine empires. Ryan held Lyra close, the scar on his chest throbbing like a promise, wondering what other surprises the stars held in their vast, enigmatic embrace. As the echoes of the battle faded into the ship's restored calm, Ryan stood there in the Emperor's antechamber, Lyra's arms wrapped around him like a lifeline amid the debris. The crystalline orb on its pedestal continued to pulse softly, its light now synced to his presence in a way that felt both empowering and unnerving, as if it had imprinted on his very soul. Vexen's massive frame loomed nearby, his wounds already sealing under the ship's auto-med systems, but his expression was a storm cloud of paternal intensity, gratitude mixed with the sharp scrutiny of a ruler who just uncovered betrayal in his own bloodline. "The orb has spoken," the Emperor rumbled, his voice carrying the weight of ancient decrees. "It binds to those of pure intent. You, Ryan of Earth, are now its guardian. With it comes power and peril." Lyra pulled back slightly, her violet eyes searching Ryan's face, a whirlwind of emotions swirling in their depths, relief, affection, and a flicker of worry that made her elf-like ears twitch nervously. She squeezed his hand, her cool fingers interlacing with his warmer ones, a silent promise amid the drama that threatened to engulf them. But before Ryan could respond, the chamber doors slid open with a whoosh, admitting a flock of Zerathian medics and security personnel, their faces etched with urgency. One, a stern-faced advisor with scales that shimmered like tarnished silver, bowed low to Vexen. "Sire, the traitor's logs reveal a web extending to the core worlds. Earth agents may be compromised. We must interrogate." and prepare for counterstrike." The words hung in the air like a charged plasma field, heightening the tension that already crackled between them. Ryan felt a knot tighten in his gut, his homeworld implicated. The thought was a dagger twist, dramatic in its irony. Here he was, a human hero thrust into alien royalty, only to face accusations that could shatter everything. Vexen's gaze bore into him, not accusatory yet, but probing, as if weighing the worth of this newfound son. Lyra stepped forward, her gowned form still disheveled from the fight, white hair tousled in a way that somehow made her look even more alluring. "Father, Ryan fought with us. He saved us again. This conspiracy, it can't touch him." Vexen nodded slowly, but his command was firm. "Indeed, but caution demands clarity. Ryan, you will accompany me to the bridge. We decrypt the logs together. Lyra, secure the orb in the vault." There was no room for argument. The Emperor swept out, expecting obedience, his advisors trailing like comet tails. Left alone momentarily with Lyra amid the scattered remnants of assassins, twisted metal limbs and flickering holograms, Ryan turned to her, the awkwardness of the situation settling in like an uninvited guest. "So, guardian of forbidden tech now? That's a promotion I didn't see coming. What's next, a crown?" He tried for levity, but his voice cracked slightly, the drama of betrayal gnawing at him. What if Earth really was involved? He'd be caught in the crossfire, a pawn in a galactic game. Lyra managed a small smile, though her cheeks flushed that telltale lavender, her body language shifting from warrior to something more vulnerable as she adjusted her garment, which had slipped during the embrace, revealing a tantalizing glimpse of her luminous skin. "A crown? In Zerathia, such things are for relics, but you're no relic." She reached up, brushing a smudge of ichor from his cheek, her touch lingering in a way that stirred memories of their earlier intimacy. Yet, with guards hovering just outside, the moment turned comically awkward. She pulled back abruptly as one cleared their throat, her ears flattening in embarrassment. "We should move the orb, quickly." Ryan chuckled despite himself, the humor a brief respite in the mounting drama. "Yeah, before I accidentally blow up the ship with my new toy." He hefted the orb carefully, surprised by its warmth like holding a captured star. It hummed in response to his grip, projecting faint holographic tendrils that danced across his arms, almost playfully. Lyra guided him through hidden passages, her hips swaying with that alien grace, but the path was narrow, forcing them uncomfortably close. At one point, he stumbled over a loose panel residual from the attack and bumped into her from behind, his hands instinctively steadying on her waist. "Whoa, sorry, these corridors weren't built for human clumsiness." She glanced back, her fangs peeking in a suppressed grin, the awkward contact sending a spark through both of them. Or perhaps they were, to test alliances. But her tone held a dramatic edge, whispers of the conspiracy echoed in her mind, making every shadow seem suspicious. As they descended into the vault, a cavernous chamber lined with glowing artifacts that pulsed like living hearts, the orb's light intensified, illuminating relics from Zerathia's past, ancient weapons that could shatter planets, devices that bent time itself. Ryan's eyes widened, the thrill of discovery mingling with the weight of responsibility. "This stuff, it's what could make Earth a player. But if my people are tangled in this mess." Lyra sealed the vault door behind them, the click echoing dramatically, enclosing them in a space that felt intimate yet fraught with peril. She placed the orb in its cradle, but as she did, it projected a vision, a holographic replay of the traitor's confession, revealing not just Earth's rogue elements, but a personal twist. The cousin had been jealous of Lyra's position, plotting to frame humans to ignite war and claim the throne. He mentioned you," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling as the hologram showed fabricated messages implicating Ryan as a spy. The drama heightened, her eyes filling with doubt for a split second before she shook it off. "It's lies, but Father will demand proof of your loyalty." Ryan felt the air thicken, awkwardness blooming into full-blown tension as he stepped closer, the orb's light casting ethereal shadows on her curves, highlighting the elegant points of her ears. "Proof? Like what? A blood oath? Or maybe a Zerathian dance-off?" He waggled his eyebrows, injecting humor to diffuse the moment, but it landed awkwardly. Lyra tilted her head, confused by the reference. Dance-off, is that a human ritual of combat?" She mimicked a clumsy twirl, her gown swirling to reveal more of her toned legs, the motion both graceful and hilariously out of context in the vault's solemn atmosphere. Ryan burst out laughing, the sound echoing off the walls, breaking the dramatic spell for a heartbeat. "Something like that," he said, pulling her into a gentle spin, their bodies brushing in a mock dance that turned unexpectedly sensual. but the humor faded as alarms blared again, not intruders this time, but an incoming transmission from Earth Command, patched through to the vault's console. The screen flickered to life, showing a stern admiral, the same rogue from the logs. No, a different face, but one Ryan recognized as his superior. Soldier Ryan, report. We've detected anomalies. Zerathian aggression? The accusation hit like a blast, heightening the drama to a fever pitch. Lyra froze beside him, her hand on his arm tightening, her body language screaming betrayal even as she fought it. Tell them the truth, she urged, but the transmission glitched, revealing intercepted data. Earth's fringe groups had indeed allied with the collective, unaware of the full plot. Ryan's face paled, awkward didn't begin to cover it. Here he was, half-dressed in a vault of secrets, defending his world's honor to a princess he just battled and bonded with. Admiral, it's a setup, Ryan barked, his voice steady despite the chaos. Traitors on both sides. I'm with the Emperor now, we've got proof. But the line crackled with interference, the Admiral's response laced with suspicion. With them, you've gone native, boy. Report for debrief or be labeled deserter. Lyra's ears perked in alarm, her curves pressing against him as she leaned in to whisper. Deserter? What does that mean for us? The awkwardness peaked, romantic tension clashing with interstellar politics, humor lurking in the absurdity of it all. Ryan rubbed his temples, muttering, it means I'm either a hero or a galactic fugitive. Great, just what I needed on my resume. As the transmission cut out, Vexen's voice boomed over the intercom. To the bridge, both of you. The collective fleet approaches, we fight or fall. The drama surged, pulling them from the vault into the fray once more. Ryan grabbed a nearby artifact, a sleek gauntlet that interfaced with the orb's power, amplifying his strength and strapped it on, feeling a rush of energy. Lyra shot him a look, half admiring, half worried, her white hair catching the light as they rushed out. The bridge was a hive of activity, officers at consoles barking coordinates, the view screen showing a swarm of enemy ships emerging from hyperspace like predatory shadows. Vexen stood at the center, his presence a dramatic anchor. They come for the orb, and for you, my chosen son, he declared, turning to Ryan with a mix of pride and challenge. But as Ryan took his place beside Lyra, an awkward hiccup arose. The gauntlet malfunctioned briefly, sending a harmless spark that singed Vexen's robe. The Emperor raised an eyebrow, and Ryan grinned sheepishly. Still getting the hang of your toys. Sorry, Dad. The bridge crew stifled laughs, the humor a spark in the tension, but Vexen's chuckle was deep and genuine. Then learn quickly, son, for the stars demand heroes, not jesters. Lyra squeezed Ryan's hand, her touch a blend of support and lingering desire, as the first enemy salvo rocked the ship. Drama unfolded in waves, evasive maneuvers that had everyone gripping consoles, Ryan directing fire with the gauntlet's precision, his human intuition clashing comically with Zerathian protocols. Fire left, no, you're left, he yelled at a gunner, the mix-up leading to a near miss that exploded harmlessly but drew groans. Lyra, at tactical station, her body tensed in concentration, shot him amused glances, her fangs biting her lip to hide a smile. As the battle intensified, an awkward revelation hit. The lead enemy ship hailed them, the traitorous cousin's face appearing, twisted in rage. Surrender the human and the orb, or watch Zerathia burn. The demand was dramatic, personal. He mocked Ryan as the princess's pet, igniting a flush on Lyra's cheeks and a possessive growl from Vexen. Ryan stepped forward, the gauntlet glowing. Pet, buddy, you've got it backward. Come get some. His quip drew chuckles from the crew, lightening the mood amid the peril, but the humor vanished as torpedoes launched, the ship shuddering under impacts. Lyra cried out as a console exploded nearby, sparks flying, and Ryan shielded her instinctively, their bodies colliding in a tangle that was equal parts protective and embarrassingly intimate amid the chaos. Get off me, I mean, thanks, she stammered, pushing him away with a laugh that bordered on hysterical, her curves brushing against him in the scramble. The awkwardness fueled his resolve. He channeled the orb's power through the gauntlet, unleashing a beam that crippled the enemy flagship in a spectacular burst. The fleet scattered, but not before a final twist. Escape pods jettisoned, one carrying the cousin, vanishing into the void. Vexen clapped Ryan on the back. You fight like a Zerathian with human flair. Lyra pulled him into a quick embrace, whispering, my hero and my fool. As the ship limped toward Zerathia, the drama lingered, awkward bonds strengthening into something unbreakable, humor weaving through like stars in the night. Yet, shadows loomed. Earth's response, the orb's secrets. Ryan wondered, with a wry smile, what other cosmic punchlines awaited. As the battered flagship limped through the final stretches of hyperspace toward Zerathia, the crew worked tirelessly to mend the scars of battle, their efforts a symphony of whirring tools and hushed commands that filled the corridors with a sense of determined recovery. Ryan stood on the bridge for a while longer, the gauntlet still humming faintly on his arm, its power a constant reminder of the orb's ancient secrets now intertwined with his fate. Vexen had dismissed him with a gruff nod of approval, his massive hand lingering on Ryan's shoulder in a gesture that felt almost fatherly, before turning to coordinate repairs and communications. Lyra had slipped away quietly amid the chaos, her violet eyes catching his with a promise of later conversation, her white hair disheveled but shining like a beacon in the dim emergency lights. The drama of the confrontation still pulsed in Ryan's veins, a mix of adrenaline and uncertainty about Earth's tangled role. But as he made his way back to his quarters, quieter longing took hold, the pull toward her, unbreakable now, woven with threads of humor and heroism that lightened even the heaviest shadows. The ship stabilized gradually, the alarms silencing into a peaceful drone, allowing the stars outside to reclaim their serene beauty. Ryan entered his chambers, the door sealing with a soft sigh, and peeled off the gauntlet, setting it on the table where it glowed softly like a watchful sentinel. His body ached from the fight, muscles protesting with every movement, but it was a good ache, one that spoke of survival and strength. He sank onto the edge of the bed, running a hand through his hair, his mind replaying the awkward moments on the bridge, the singed robe, the misdirected fire, Lyra's stifled laugh amid the tension. A wry smile tugged at his lips. Who would have thought a human soldier could turn an interstellar skirmish into a comedy of errors? Yet, beneath the levity, the looming questions about loyalty and alliances gnawed at him, making rest feel elusive. A gentle chime at the door pulled him from his thoughts, and before he could respond, it slid open to reveal Lyra, her presence filling the room like a warm nebula's glow. She had changed into a simple yet elegant shift, the fabric light and flowing, clinging softly to her curves in a way that accentuated her graceful form without overt display. Her white hair was loose, framing her face and those delicate elf-like ears that perked slightly at the sight of him. In her hands, she carried a small vial of shimmering liquid, another Zerathian remedy, perhaps, and her expression held a blend of concern and something deeper, a spark that mirrored the intimacy they'd shared before the chaos erupted. "I thought you might need this," she said softly, stepping inside as the door closed behind her, enclosing them once more in their private world. "It's a balm for the bruises. Father says humans heal slower than we do." Her voice carried that melodic lilt, but there was a hesitance in it, a lingering echo of the drama they just endured, the betrayal, the battle, the uncertainties about his world. Ryan stood, meeting her halfway, his hand brushing hers as he took the vial. The touch was electric, reigniting the connection that had been simmering since their first stolen moments. "Thanks, though after today, I feel like I could take on a black hole." He uncapped the vial, the scent wafting up like fresh rain on alien soil, soothing and invigorating. But as he applied it to a sore spot on his arm, Lyra's fingers joined his, guiding the motion with a gentleness that made his breath catch. Her skin was cool against his, her proximity stirring memories of their earlier closeness, the way their bodies had moved in harmony amid the elixir's haze. Their eyes met, and the air between them thickened, charged with unspoken emotions. The drama of the day had heightened everything, the risks they'd faced together, the bonds forged in fire. Lyra's cheeks flushed that soft lavender, her ears twitching as she leaned closer. "You were incredible out there," she murmured, her hand trailing up his arm, fingers tracing the lines of his muscles with a feather-light touch. "Not just fighting, but the way you turned fear into strength. It makes me want to be closer to you." Ryan's heart raced, the pull irresistible. He set the vial aside, his hands finding her waist, drawing her in until their bodies pressed together, the fabric of her shift thin enough to feel the warmth radiating from her luminous skin. "Lyra," he whispered, his voice husky with the weight of their shared trials. "After everything, being with you is the only thing that feels right." He cupped her face, thumb brushing her full lips, and she responded by rising on her toes, their mouths meeting in a kiss that started slow, tender, but quickly deepened with the passion built from survival's edge. She melted against him, her curves fitting perfectly to his frame, her arms wrapping around his neck as the kiss grew more urgent. Ryan's hands roamed her back, feeling the subtle ridges of her spine, the way her body responded to his touch with a soft hum of energy, as if her very essence vibrated in tune with his. They moved toward the bed, steps synchronized in a dance of desire, the earlier humor forgotten in this intimate surrender. Lyra's fingers tugged at his shirt, slipping it over his head with a playful yet eager motion, her eyes darkening with appreciation as she explored the planes of his chest, tracing the scar from the blast with reverent care. He reciprocated, his hands sliding under her shift, lifting it gently, revealing more of her pale, glowing form, the elegant swell of her hips, the soft contours that invited exploration. Their touches were exploratory, affectionate, each caress building a wave of sensation that washed over them like a gentle tide. Lyra's breath hitched as he kissed along her neck, her elf-like ears sensitive to the warmth of his lips, sending shivers through her that he felt in every press of her body against his. "Ryan," she breathed, her voice a mix of wonder and need. "Show me more of your human ways, let our worlds blend." They tumbled onto the bed, bodies entwining in a rhythm that felt natural. Inevitable, the room's lights dimmed automatically, casting a soft glow that highlighted the beauty of their union, the contrast of his tanned skin against her luminous pallor, the way her white hair fanned out like a halo. Sensations heightened, the silk of the sheets against their skin, the electric tingle where they connected, each movement a symphony of shared pleasure. Ryan focused on her responses, his touches gentle yet insistent, drawing soft sounds from her that echoed the melody of their earlier passion. She guided him too, her hands showing him the spots that made her arch in delight, their connection deepening with every shared breath. Time blurred as they lost themselves in each other, the intimacy a balm against the day's chaos. It was more than physical, a merging of spirits, human resilience meeting Zerathian grace in a dance that celebrated their differences and similarities. Whispers passed between them, words of affection and promise, her fangs grazing his shoulder lightly in moments of heightened emotion, adding a thrilling edge without harm. The crescendo built slowly, waves of warmth and connection cresting in a shared release that left them breathless, tangled in each other's arms, hearts pounding in unison. As they lay there afterward, Lyra nestled against his side, her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. Her fingers traced lazy patterns on his skin, the afterglow wrapping them in a cocoon of contentment. "This, us, it's what gives me hope amid the shadows," she said softly, her voice laced with emotion. Ryan kissed her forehead, holding her close, the drama of the universe feeling distant in this moment of pure connection. But even in their sanctuary, the ship's subtle vibrations reminded them of the journey ahead, Zerathia drawing nearer, with its palaces and politics. Ryan's mind wandered briefly to the orb's secrets, Earth's looming response, but he pushed it aside, focusing on the woman in his arms. Their bond had grown stronger, more profound, a testament to the power of unity across stars. As sleep began to claim them, wrapped in each other's warmth, he wondered how this intimacy would shape the trials to come, a quiet curiosity blooming in the night, as the gentle hum of the ship's systems lulled them into a deeper repose. Ryan felt Lyra's steady breathing against his chest, her luminous skin still warm from their shared moments, a soft glow that painted the room in subtle hues of starlight. The intimacy they'd just experienced lingered like a sweet aftertaste, binding them closer in ways that transcended words or worlds, a quiet affirmation amid the uncertainties swirling beyond their door. He stroked her white hair absent-mindedly, the strands silky under his fingers, her elf-like ears twitching occasionally in her sleep as if attuned to dreams of distant galaxies. Zerathia loomed ever nearer, a promise of grandeur and challenges, but in this cocoon of tranquility, Ryan allowed himself to imagine a future where alliances weren't just political, where he and Lyra could carve out something real, unmarred by betrayals or battles. Yet, as his eyes grew heavy, a faint vibration from the gauntlet on the table stirred him, its glow pulsing erratically, as if whispering secrets he wasn't yet ready to hear. The disturbance grew insistent, a low thrum that resonated through the room, pulling Ryan from the edge of sleep. Lyra stirred beside him, her violet eyes fluttering open, a sleepy smile curving her lips as she nestled closer. "What is it?" she murmured, her voice husky with remnants of their passion, her hand sliding across his abdomen in a lazy caress that sent a fresh wave of warmth through him. "Just the gauntlet," he replied, propping himself up on one elbow to glance at it. The device, interfaced with the orb's ancient power, shimmered with an inner light that seemed to beckon. Probably nothing, residual energy from the fight. But as he reached for it, the glow intensified, projecting a holographic interface that unfolded like a blooming flower in the air above the bed. Symbols danced across the display, Zerathian script mixed with unfamiliar runes that twisted and reformed, as if the tech was adapting to his human mind. Lyra sat up fully now, her shift slipping slightly off one shoulder, revealing the elegant curve of her collarbone, but her attention was riveted on the hologram. "That's not residual," she said, her tone shifting from affectionate to alert, her ears perking straight. "The orb's core is activating. It only does that when it senses a true bond or a hidden truth." She leaned forward, her body brushing against his in the confined space, and waved her hand through the projection, initiating a scan that hummed with increasing urgency. Ryan watched, a mix of curiosity and unease building in his chest. The interface responded to his presence, pulling data streams that coalesced into images, star maps, genetic sequences, historical logs from eons past. "What's it saying?" he asked, his hand finding hers instinctively, their fingers intertwining as the hologram stabilized into a narrative projection, a visual story unfolding before them like a galactic tapestry. The tale began with Zerathia's ancient history, voices narrating in a melodic chorus that his translator rendered flawlessly. Long ago, before the Empire spanned nebulae, a cataclysmic event, a supernova's wrath, threatened their homeworld. In desperation, the ancestors launched ark ships, seeding colonies across the void to preserve their lineage. One such vessel, the Elisara, vanished into a wormhole storm, presumed lost forever. The projection zoomed in on Earth, his Earth, showing primitive humans evolving, but with anomalies, unexplained leaps in technology, myths of star-fallen gods, DNA markers that defied natural evolution. Lyra's grip tightened, her breath catching as the hologram delved deeper. This can't be," she whispered, her luminous skin paling further, her curves tensing against him as realization dawned. The scan interfaced with Ryan's biology, a painless prick of light sampling his essence through the gauntlet. Results flooded the display, genetic matches, overlapping sequences that linked him directly to the Lost Ark's crew. Not just any crew, the royal line. Vexen's ancestors. Ryan stared, his world tilting on its axis. "What does this mean?" His voice came out rough, disbelief warring with the evidence swirling in holographic clarity. The projection confirmed it. Humans weren't mere primitives stumbling into the stars. They were the descendants of Zerathia's exiled pioneers. Their biology adapted to Earth's harsh environment, forgetting their origins over millennia. And Ryan, his scar from the blast, glowed faintly in sync with the hologram, a latent marker activated by the energy hit. He carried the Emperor's bloodline, a direct descendant through hidden threads of fate. The twist hit like a hyperspace rupture, surprising even Lyra, who recoiled slightly, her violet eyes wide with shock. "You're one of us? Father's kin?" She pulled back just enough to study his face, her hand pressing to his chest as if feeling for the truth beneath his skin. The intimacy of moments ago transformed into something profound. Charged with this revelation, their connection wasn't chance, it was destiny woven into their very genes. Ryan's mind reeled, the powerful implications crashing over him. All those Earth legends, Atlantis, gods from the sky, they weren't myths, they were echoes of Zerathia. His human bravery, the instinct that drove him to shield her, stemmed from an ancient heritage he never knew. But how? "I'm from Earth, dirt-poor colony kid, fighting for scraps." He laughed incredulously, but it was laced with awe, his arms pulling her back against him, kneading the anchor of her form amid the surprise. The hologram continued, unveiling more. The traitor cousin hadn't acted alone. He discovered fragments of this truth and sought to suppress it, fearing a human claim to the throne would dilute Zerathian purity. The assassination attempt at the summit? Not just to kill Lyra, but to prevent any human from awakening these latent ties. And the orb, it wasn't just tech, it was a genetic key, designed to recognize and empower the lost bloodline. By saving Lyra, Ryan had inadvertently unlocked his own heritage, elevating him not as an adopted son, but as a rightful heir. Lyra's reaction deepened the twist's impact, tears shimmered in her eyes, not of sorrow, but of wonder. All this time, we've seen humans as outsiders, brash, intriguing, but separate. But your family, more than that? She trailed off, her fingers tracing his jaw, the touch now laden with new meaning. Their earlier passion replayed in his mind, but reframed had the orb sensed this connection, drawing them together. The surprise layered upon itself, making the room feel alive with possibilities. As the projection faded, leaving them in the soft glow of the gauntlet, Ryan felt a surge of power course through him, subtle enhancements awakening, his senses sharpening, strength subtly amplifying. It was thrilling, terrifying, he could feel the stars calling, his human resilience now fused with Zerathian potential. "This changes everything," he said, his voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. Lyra nodded, leaning in to kiss him softly, her lips a balm against the revelation's storm. But the twist wasn't done unfolding. A chime from the console interrupted. Vexen's voice booming through. "Daughter," Ryan report to the throne room upon arrival. "The orb has activated, we must discuss its omens." Unbeknownst to the Emperor, the omens were Ryan himself. Lyra's ears flattened in nervous anticipation, her body pressing closer to his as they dressed hurriedly, the shift and his uniform feeling like mere veils over their transformed reality. They moved through the corridors hand in hand, the ship's crew nodding respectfully, unaware of the bombshell hidden within their midst. Zerathia emerged on the view screens, a jewel of a world, floating citadels amid swirling clouds, palaces that defied gravity. As they entered the docking bay, preparing to disembark, Ryan's enhanced senses picked up whispers, guards discussing the human's anomaly, hints that Vexen might already suspect. The throne room was a marvel, vaulted ceilings echoing with holographic stars, walls alive with bioluminescent vines. Vexen sat upon a throne of crystalline spires, his scaled form imposing, advisors flanking him like silent sentinels. "The orb speaks of a lost heir," he declared as they approached, his eyes locking on Ryan with piercing intensity. Lyra squeezed Ryan's hand, her curves tense beside him, ready for the confrontation. Before Ryan could speak, the gauntlet on his arm activated unbidden, projecting the genetic truth for all to see. Gasps rippled through the room, advisors murmuring in shock, Vexen's expression shifting from authority to astonishment. "You are the Elisara's legacy." The Emperor rose, his voice thundering with emotion. "My blood runs in your veins." The surprise peaked, the room electric with revelation. Ryan stepped forward, meeting Vexen's gaze as equals. "Seems so. Earth's not just an ally, it's your long-lost child." The twist reframed everything. The alliance wasn't charity, it was reunion. Humanity's fuck yeah spirit, inherited from Zerathian survivors, amplified by Earth's trials. Lyra beamed, her affection now laced with familial pride. But the drama lingered, factions within Zerathia would resist a human heir. Vexen embraced him then, a crushing hug that sealed the bond. "Welcome home, my son, true son." As celebrations began, feasts materializing, music swelling, Ryan felt the weight of his new identity. The twist had upended his world, surprising him with roots among the stars. Yet, with Lyra at his side, her hand in his, he embraced it, ready for the surprises yet to come. The cosmos, it seemed, had a sense of humor, turning a simple soldier into a galactic prince. But shadows stirred, distant communications from Earth flickered with confusion, and whispers of remaining traitors echoed. The powerful twist had set the stage for greater adventures, Ryan's heart now beating with the rhythm of two worlds. As the echoes of Vexen's declaration reverberated through the throne room, the air thickened with a mix of awe and murmurs, the holographic stars overhead twinkling as if celebrating the revelation themselves. Ryan stood there, enveloped in the Emperor's embrace, feeling the scaled arms around him like bands of unbreakable alloy, warm, paternal, yet carrying the weight of an empire's expectations. Lyra's hand slipped from his as she stepped back, her violet eyes shimmering with a blend of joy and trepidation, her white hair catching the light in a way that made her look like a living constellation amid the gathering crowd. Advisors bowed low, their whispers evolving into chants of ancient blessings, but beneath the surface jubilation. Ryan sensed undercurrents of discord, glances exchanged among the courtiers, subtle shifts in posture that hinted at factions not yet ready to accept a human as heir. The twist of his heritage had appended the room, but now the real drama was unfolding. How would Zerathia, with its rigid traditions, absorb this cosmic curveball? Vexen released him, his massive frame stepping back to survey the assembly with a gaze that could quell supernovas. "Let the feasts commence. Tonight, we honor the return of the Elisara's blood, my son, Ryan." Bridge between worlds. Horns blared from hidden alcoves, bioluminescent vines along the walls pulsing in rhythmic celebration, and servants materialized with trays of glowing delicacies, fruits that sang soft melodies when bitten, elixirs that sparkled like captured quasars. Lyra reclaimed Ryan's hand, pulling him toward a raised dais where thrones awaited, her curves brushing against him in the press of the crowd, a reminder of their private bond now thrust into public scrutiny. "This is your moment," she whispered, her elf-like ears twitching with excitement, but her voice held a dramatic edge, laced with worry about the shadows he'd glimpsed in the advisor's eyes. As they ascended the steps, an awkward hitch emerged, Ryan's earth boots, still scuffed from the ship's battles, caught on the edge of a crystalline stair, sending him stumbling forward with a grunt. He caught himself just in time, but not before knocking into a servant bearing a tray of those melodic fruits. One tumbled free, rolling across the floor with a tinkling tune that sounded suspiciously like a comedic fanfare. The room fell into a brief, stunned silence, then Vexen boomed with laughter, his scales rattling like distant thunder. "Ah, the grace of our lost kin, even in triumph you bring the unpredictability of Earth. Come, sit before you topple the throne itself." The courtiers chuckled politely, but Ryan felt his cheeks heat, the humor a welcome deflate to the mounting tension. Lyra stifled a giggle, her fangs peeking in a grin as she steadied him. "Smooth, my star-fallen prince. At least you didn't land in the elixir fountain." Settling into a throne beside Vexen's, smaller, but ornately carved with motifs of intertwined planets, Ryan scanned the room, the drama heightening as factions revealed themselves subtly. One advisor, a wiry figure named Thaler with eyes like polished obsidian, approached with a bow that seemed too stiff, his voice dripping with feigned deference. "Sire, this revelation is profound, but protocol demands verification. The genetic orb may err after all. Humans are known for their creative adaptations." The implication hung heavy doubt sown like seeds in fertile soil, challenging Ryan's claim and stirring murmurs among the crowd. Vexen's expression darkened, his hand clenching the armrest. "The orb does not lie, Thaler. Question it, and you question Zerathia's very foundation." Lyra leaned closer to Ryan, her breath warm against his ear, her body language a mix of support and subtle possessiveness that made his pulse quicken despite the spotlight. "Thaler's always been ambitious," she confided softly. "He backed my cousin's exile, now this threatens his influence." Her hand rested on his knee under the table's edge, a comforting touch that turned awkwardly intimate when a holographic projector activated unexpectedly, beaming images of the genetic match for all to see, including a magnified scan of Ryan's scar that somehow highlighted their clasped hands in the feed. Gasps rippled through the room, followed by titters. Had the orb's AI developed a sense of mischief? Ryan pulled his hand away with a sheepish grin, whispering, "Great, now the whole empire knows I'm holding hands with the princess." Subtle, orb, Vexen waved off the projection with a chuckle, but the moment amplified the drama, turning personal bonds into political fodder. Feasts progressed amid this tension. Ryan sampled a dish that looked like swirling nebula gel, its flavor exploding in bursts of sweet and spice that made him cough dramatically, drawing more laughs. "Earth food doesn't fight back," he quipped, wiping his eyes, the humor easing the awkwardness as Lyra patted his back, her curves pressing close in a way that stirred memories of their private sanctuaries. But beneath the levity, intrigue brewed. Whispers reached them of council members convening in side chambers, debating the purity of the throne's line. One bold courtier even approached, a young Zerathian with vibrant scales, offering Ryan a ceremonial dagger to prove your warrior blood, a test disguised as tradition. The drama escalated when Vexen called for toasts, his voice booming over the music. "To Ryan, son of stars, who shall lead us into unity." Goblets raised, but Thaler interjected smoothly. "And to verification, perhaps a trial of essence to confirm the bond." The room hushed, the proposal a veiled challenge, the trial of essence, an ancient ritual involving interfacing with Zerathia's core AI, risking neural overload for outsiders. Lyra's ears flattened in alarm, her hand finding Ryan's again, this time openly. "Father, he's already proven himself in battle, in blood." But Vexen's eyes narrowed thoughtfully, the paternal pride clashing with imperial duty. It would silence doubters. "Daughter, Ryan, what say you?" Ryan felt the weight of every gaze, the awkwardness peaking as he stood, his human frame dwarfed by the towering throne's yet commanding attention. "A trial? Sure, why not? I've survived worse than a cosmic lie detector. But if I pass, Thaler buys the next round of those exploding fruits." The quip drew genuine laughter, diffusing some tension, but Thaler's smile was thin, his obsidian eyes glinting with calculation. As preparations began, holographic circles forming on the floor, the core AI humming to life, Lyra pulled Ryan aside into an alcove, her body pressing against his in the shadows, her voice urgent. "This is dangerous. The trial probes memories, essences it could expose. Us." Her cheeks flushed lavender, the intimacy of their relationship now a potential vulnerability in this public arena. He cupped her face, thumb brushing her pointed ear, eliciting a soft shiver. "Then it'll show the truth, all of it, including how a human fell for a princess and saved an empire." Their kiss was brief, stolen, but interrupted by a coughing advisor peeking in, awkward timing that had them springing apart like guilty comet chasers. "The trial awaits, Your Highness," the advisor stammered, averting his eyes from Lyra's disheveled shift. Ryan chuckled. "Timing's everything in politics, huh?" Lyra rolled her eyes, but her smile held humor amid the fear. The ritual commenced with dramatic flair. Ryan stepped into the circle, the AI's light enveloping him like a living nebula, probing his mind with tendrils of energy. Images flashed publicly, his Earth battles, the summit blast, intimate glimpses of Lyra that he willed to blur, drawing gasps and awkward shifts from the crowd. Humor crept in when a childhood memory surfaced, young Ryan clumsily building a model rocket that exploded in his face, the hologram replaying it in slow motion to the room's amusement. "See, explosions are in my blood," he joked through gritted teeth, the pain of the probe building like a storm. But the drama crested as deeper truths emerged, confirmations of his lineage, but also revelations of Earth's hidden Zerathian artifacts, buried tech influencing human history, explaining leaps like the pyramids or quantum drives. Thaler's face paled. His own ancestors had suppressed knowledge of the lost Ark to consolidate power. "Treason!" Vexen roared, the accusation thundering as guards moved in. Thaler bolted, but Ryan, empowered by the AI, extended a force field from his gauntlet awkwardly at first, nearly trapping a bystander servant who yelped comically before ducking free. "Whoops, still calibrating," Ryan muttered, the humor undercutting the tension as Thaler was apprehended. In the chaos, Lyra rushed to Ryan's side as the probe ended, her embrace fierce amid cheers. "You did it again," but Vexen's command cut through. "Exile for the traitor, and for my son, the crown's full rights." The drama lingered, awkward alliances forming as courtiers pledged loyalty, some with forced smiles. Ryan whispered to Lyra, "Crown, hope it comes with a manual, I'm still figuring out the fruit." Her laugh was a bright spark, but shadows persisted, Earth's transmissions demanding explanations, factions plotting in whispers. As the night wore on, feasts turning to dances, Ryan twirled Lyra under the holographic stars, their bodies moving in sync despite his occasional missteps, stepping on her toes with a grinned apology that drew her closer. The awkwardness of his dual heritage blended with humor, heightening the drama of a prince caught between worlds. Yet, with her in his arms, the universe felt conquerable, even as distant threats loomed like uncharted asteroids. The celebrations continued, but Ryan knew the real trials were just beginning, wrapped in laughter, love, and the relentless pull of destiny. As the dances swirled into the late hours of Zerathia's eternal twilight, the holographic stars above casting a perpetual glow over the throne room, Ryan found himself lost in the rhythm with Lyra in his arms, her laughter a melody that cut through the lingering echoes of drama and doubt. Her white hair whipped gently as he spun her, her elf-like ears brushing his cheek in fleeting touches that sent sparks of warmth through him, reminders of the intimate worlds they'd shared amid chaos. The courtiers moved around them like orbiting planets, their scales and gowns a kaleidoscope of colors, toasting to the new heir with goblets that shimmered under the bioluminescent vines. Yet, even in this whirlwind of celebration, Ryan felt the undercurrents, the forced smiles of those like Thaler's allies, now scattered and subdued but not silenced, their whispers fading into the music like distant comet trails. Vexen watched from his throne, his massive form relaxed for the first time in what seemed like ages, his eyes holding a paternal pride that bridged the gap between emperor and father, acknowledging the human, now Zerathian, who had appended an empire with nothing but courage and fate. Lyra pulled him closer during a slower turn, her curves molding against him in a way that stirred memories of their private sanctuaries aboard the ship, her luminous skin glowing faintly in the room's ambient light. "You've conquered more than trials tonight," she whispered, her violet eyes locking onto his with a depth that made the vast hall feel intimate. "You've won hearts, mine most of all." Ryan smiled, his hand at the small of her back, feeling the subtle hum of her energy, a connection that had grown from spark to supernova. But as the music swelled, a subtle alert chimed from his gauntlet, its glow pulsing softly against his wrist, a reminder that the universe rarely allowed for uninterrupted joy. Incoming transmissions from Earth, urgent and layered with the static of hyperspace relays, demanded attention. Vexen noticed, gesturing them over with a nod that carried the weight of command, pulling them from the dance floor into a side chamber where the festivities' hum became a distant backdrop. The chamber was quieter, adorned with ancient tapestries depicting Zerathia's stellar conquests, the walls alive with soft projections of nebulae that shifted like breathing entities. Vexen activated a central console, the holographic display blooming to life with faces from Earth's high command, admirals and diplomats, their expressions a mix of bewilderment and resolve. "Emperor Vexen, we've received your data bursts," the lead admiral intoned, his voice crackling slightly. "This genetic revelation, it's rewritten our history. But rogue elements among us, the ones allied with your traitors, they're mobilizing. They see this as a threat to Earth's independence, not a reunion." Lyra's hand tightened in Ryan's, her ears flattening slightly in concern, her body leaning into his for support as the drama resurfaced, threatening to overshadow their triumph. Ryan stepped forward, his voice steady, infused with the human grit that had carried him through blasts and betrayals. "Admiral, those rogues don't speak for Earth. We've got proof. The Orb's archives show our shared roots. This isn't conquest, it's family coming home." Vexen nodded approvingly, his scaled hand on Ryan's shoulder. "Indeed, Zerathia extends its hand not as overlord, but as kin. Together we crush the shadows." The transmission flickered with deliberations, but as data packets exchanged, blueprints of ancient tech, strategies for joint defense, the alliance solidified. Earth's forces, bolstered by Zerathian enhancements, would root out the traitors, turning potential war into unified strength. Lyra's eyes sparkled with hope, her fingers tracing Ryan's arm, a silent affirmation that their bond had sparked this greater harmony. With the call ending on promises of envoys and shared councils, the trio returned to the hall, the music embracing them once more, but Ryan felt a pull toward resolution, a need to tie the loose threads of his journey. He excused himself briefly, wandering to a balcony overlooking Zerathia's floating citadels, where clouds swirled like living mists and distant spires pierced the horizon like spears of light. The air was crisp, scented with exotic blooms that hummed softly, and stars wheeled overhead in patterns unfamiliar yet somehow home. Lyra joined him soon after, her presence announced by the soft rustle of her gown, her white hair catching the wind like silken banners. "Lost in the stars?" she asked, slipping her arm through his, her curves pressing close against the chill. "Found, actually," he replied, turning to her with a smile that held the weight of worlds. "From a summit blast to this, it's been a ride." She laughed softly, her fangs glinting in the starlight, and they stood there, bodies entwined, gazing out at the empire that now called him son. Vexen appeared moments later, his footsteps heavy but purposeful, joining them at the railing. "The trials have forged you, Ryan, but peace demands more than battles, it requires vision." He placed a ceremonial medallion around Ryan's neck, its crystal core pulsing in sync with the orb's energy, symbolizing his role as bridge between realms. "Lead with Earth's fire and Zerathia's wisdom, and cherish her," he added, nodding to Lyra with a knowing glint in his eyes. The night deepened, celebrations winding down into quieter reflections, with courtiers dispersing to their quarters amid bows and well wishes. Ryan and Lyra retired to a private suite in the palace, a vast space with viewport walls that framed the cosmos like a living canvas, beds of adaptive silk that cradled them like clouds. As they undressed in the soft glow, her shift falling away to reveal the luminous beauty of her form, the elegant points of her ears, the gentle swell of her hips, Ryan pulled her close, their kisses starting tender but building with the passion of survivors who'd claimed their destiny. Their bodies moved in harmony, touches exploratory and affectionate, celebrating the union that had defied empires. Sensations wrapped around them, the electric hum of her skin against his, the way she arched under his caresses, their shared breaths a rhythm that echoed the stars' eternal dance. It was a culmination, not just of desire, but of trust forged in fire, leaving them spent and content, tangled in each other's arms as sleep claimed them. Dawn on Zerathia brought new light, filtering through the viewports in hues of violet and gold, awakening Ryan to a world transformed. He rose quietly, donning a robe embroidered with symbols of both Earth and Zerathia, and stepped onto the balcony once more. Below, envoys from Earth arrived, shuttles descending like meteors, greeted by Zerathian honor guards in a display of unity. Lyra stirred, joining him wrapped in a sheet, her white hair tousled, her smile radiant. "Our future," she said, leaning into him, her hand on his chest where the medallion rested. Vexen summoned them to the Grand Hall, now filled with representatives from both worlds, humans in crisp uniforms, Zerathians in flowing robes, all seated around a massive table that projected holographic treaties. The drama of past betrayals was addressed head-on, Thaler and his ilk exiled to fringe colonies, Earth's rogues apprehended in joint operations that showcased humanity's ingenuity amplified by Zerathian tech. Ryan spoke as heir, his words weaving tales of shared heritage, emphasizing the HFY spirit, the unyielding resilience that had turned lost descendants into galactic equals. "We humans, your kin, have always punched above our weight," he declared, drawing nods and applause. "Together, we don't just survive, we thrive." Lyra stood beside him, her presence a beacon of grace, her contributions to the Accords highlighting cultural bridges, exchanges of art, science, and even cuisine, where Earth's bold flavors met Zerathia's subtle elixirs. Vexen sealed the pacts with a resonant decree, his voice echoing like thunder, "Let this be the era of reunion. Ryan, my son, you shall oversee the integration, ambassador, leader, bridge." The room erupted in cheers, humans and Zerathians mingling in newfound camaraderie, toasts raised to a future bright with possibility. As the day unfolded into explorations of Zerathia's wonders, floating gardens where flowers sang, archives pulsing with forgotten knowledge, Ryan and Lyra stole moments alone, wandering hand in hand through crystalline paths. Their conversations flowed from laughter over his earlier stumbles to deeper vows, her violet eyes holding promises of eternity. "You've given me more than an empire," she confessed during a quiet interlude by a luminous fountain, her body close, her touch affirming. "You've given me you." He kissed her then, under the gaze of twin moons, their bond a testament to love's power across stars. Years blurred into legend from there, Ryan's leadership elevating Earth to cosmic prominence, innovations blending human creativity with Zerathian might, ships that bent space, cures for ancient plagues, alliances that spanned galaxies. Traitors faded into footnotes, replaced by tales of heroism where humans, once underestimated, stood as equals. Fuck yeah, indeed. Vexen ruled wisely, eventually passing the mantle to Ryan and Lyra, their children embodying the perfect fusion of worlds, pointed ears with human spark, luminous skin with earthly resilience. In quiet evenings, as they watched sunsets paint the skies in impossible colors, Ryan would hold Lyra close, her head on his shoulder, their lives a tapestry of adventure and affection. "From a blast to this," he'd muse, and she'd reply with a smile. Destiny's best plot twist. The stars wheeled on, eternal witnesses to their story, a saga of sacrifice, discovery, and unbreakable love that echoed through the cosmos, inspiring generations to reach beyond their horizons. And in that vast expanse, humanity's light burned brighter than ever, a beacon of what could be when hearts and worlds aligned. And so, as the twin moons of Zerathia rose high, casting their silver light over the united empires, Ryan and Lyra stood hand in hand, their legacy etched into the stars forever, a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit and the boundless power of love across the cosmos. In my opinion, this story beautifully captures the essence of HFY, showing how ordinary humans can become extraordinary heroes in the face of the unknown. What do you think? Could a simple act of bravery really bridge galaxies? Thank you all for watching. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares are our greatest motivation to create even better stories. See you in the next adventure.